Hey, Grand Ascension, everyone. I hope everyone is having a wonderful day. Today is Saturday, March the 30th, and I did a live stream earlier this morning on my Facebook page, but I thought I would come over here and do this video and upload it to my YouTube platform. A couple of things I wanted to talk about. One, I started reading the second book from Jameel, Shamsid, Deen. It's called I Told You Don't Call My Dummy No Dummy, Uncovering the Truth, The Journey to Embrace Our Roots. I did the first couple pages on Facebook Live, and I wanted to do the second portion of this, right, that I'm going to read. Also, I just got in from our family reunion on my husband's side, and I had stopped in the mall to pick up something at a store. And I actually grabbed a copy of George Orwell's 1984. Shout out to Chief Red Wolf. Finally got a copy of that. So I am going to read it. It says the 75th anniversary includes a new introduction by Dolan Perkins Valdez and a new afterword by Sandra Newman. So I'm looking forward to reading this. It's on my list. And then I picked up this book, The Best Weird Tales of H.P. Lovecraft, the commemorative edition of the Necronomicon. Okay, this bad boy, H.P. Lovecraft. So, and I got a couple of other little bookmarkers. I thought they were cute. It's girly stuff. That's to mark my books. So I'm going to enjoy reading 1984 George Orwell. I'm going to see if I can find the movie too. Now, let's jump right in. So I read pages, you guys want to find me on Facebook? I read pages 6, 7, and 8, and 9, 10, 11. And that took me up to the part where, and I do apologize if you hear some noise in the background. It's my puppies, my chihuahuas. They run the roost. I am going to look at page 12, the power to see what is evident to the average mind. Let's jump in. The biggest problem we have today is that we have too much information surfacing and falling out of the ether from every direction. Having so much information and not being able to critically analyze it with an open mind tends to hinder the true intention of learning. With the overwhelming amount of indoctrination received from the mandated educational system, we find that people just regurgitate information to pass exams. Oh my God, that's so true. Instead of examining it for the content and coming to a meaningful conclusion. I have come to recognize that every book created since 1871 on this planet is misinformation and designed to keep us from applying common sense thought to information. Everything in this establishment-controlled education system is specifically designed to program our minds away from the truth. He is so right. He is so right. I'm going to read that one more time, you guys. Let's let that sink in. Everything in this establishment-controlled education system is specifically designed to program our minds away from the truth. What we know as physics is wrong. What we know as medicine is wrong. What we know as history is definitely wrong. Everything we are taught in textbooks is done purposefully, so we do not understand how to maintain and feed our bodies. Just imagine if we truly learned these simple things. They would help us empower ourselves, that we would understand what is really going on within our reality. Okay? Point of fact, free thinking and truth telling will make you an easy target in this society. Oh my God, so much truth right here on these pages, you guys. I mean, he's telling the honest to God truth when he says that. By anyone with a closed mind and silo thinking, because everything they have created has been through leaps in logic and guesswork. The generational abuses and trauma suffered by our elders and ancestors have mentally obscured any thought of unity in fear of some retaliatory action by the supremacist indoctrination. We are now seeing other people of color as the enemy. Well, I'm going to say this. I'm going to read, but I'm going to try not to interject so much. I'm just going to say this. All skin folk are not kinfolk. Let that sink in. All skin folk are not kinfolk. Okay? We are now seeing other people of color as enemy through social engineering that have seemingly secured the legacy by capturing our younger generation through the media industrial complex. Our youth are brainwashed to not think critically about the active wars waged against our collective and our people's identities. Do not get me wrong. We were warring amongst ourselves long before the invaders stepped on the foot of our ancestral shores here in America. And that's true. He didn't add that. I added that. Basically, he just put he said, do not get me wrong. We were warring amongst ourselves long before the invaders stepped foot on our shores. But through their studying our ways and customs, they have found that as a collective, we accept things willingly without a lot of supporting facts. I'm going to say that one more time. But through their studying of our ways and our customs, they have found that as a collective, we accept things willingly without a lot of supporting facts. They found we took people for their word, hence the reason the creation of the phrase, white men speak with a forked tongue. That was created. The term originated because of a French, a swarthy complexion, swarthy would be me, swarthy complexion tactic used on the Iroquois in the 1690s by them inviting their enemies to attend a peace meeting only to be slaughtered or captured. If you look at the last 70 years, all carbon-based beings that were in the forefront as leaders of our communities here have been publicly murdered to spark fear in the hearts and minds of the masses. In the U.S., all carbon-based leaders who have spoken out against the atrocities inflicted upon us have had some sort of public assassination, be it to their persons or character, by the whole of society through eugenics, using economic, social, judicial, and medical practices to weaken our resolve. No one wants to discuss why these leaders have been unalived by the complicit authority of the American system, because the system would be forced to confront its own racial identity and or biases. We have been programmed and conditioned to champion everyone else's issues and problems for securing their human rights and their rights to live to life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness while neglecting our own. I'm going to say that one more time because I need you guys to, the ones that are knock-knocks, I need you to hear what I'm saying, right? Listen. We have been programmed and conditioned to champion everyone's else's issues and problems for securing their human rights and their rights to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness while neglecting our own as a race of people. And I put that in there as a race of people. But he's right. He's so much right. So much truth on these pages. My intent of this book is to focus on a small portion from my previous book, Don't Call My Dummy No Dummy, to help me tell the story, better yet, the game that has been imposed on the so-called, air quotes, so-called African American through time to keep them subjugated within a system that makes them dependent subclass of beings on their own land. Okay? Let's deep dive into this, people. My focus will be on the riots and the massacres of the American Indians, the brown people, that's people that look like you and I, right? The copper-colored people of the land, Negro, colored, Black, and now African American, labeled people, which were waged by the civilian militias and military powers, all researchable now. All this is researchable and this is fact. It's no fiction here, okay? Statistics reveal that since its independence in 1776, you guys, the people in the U.S. government have launched over 1,500 attacks on the Indian tribes, which involved slaughtering, land grabbing, and committing countless crimes on them or us. When you are through reading, I hope you see that only people who lost everything in the creation of the U.S. is the Indian, the Negro, the colored, Black, and now African American. It is their way to disconnect you from the land. Remember, Indian, Negro, colored are written in documents of the past that were used throughout law. He's telling the truth, because I've started pulling my family's genealogy, and I'm telling you, I see Indian on there, and then I see Negro, and then I see Black. And I'm like, what is going on with this? Now, I think on one of the documents I saw colored. So I'm like, on the birth certificate, you was one race, but on your death certificate, you was another. How is that even? And people can't say, oh, well, that was a mistake. No, it wasn't a mistake, because they were changing the identities of us. And if you just go pull your genealogy records and go back through time, you'll see the same thing. You'll see the exact same thing that I saw in my own records. And he puts a picture of here. I'm going to show you this picture with you guys. And again, this is for educational purposes. Everything that I'm reading, you can purchase the book and you can read it also. I'm just wanting to share this information with those of you that have not gotten this book yet. Okay. So next part. Do you know where you are and who you are? I'm going to say that again for the people in the back row. Do you know where you are and who you are? Remember that he who controls information controls the world. I'm going to say it one more time. He who controls information controls the world. Let us start by looking at a simple Google search of the term, what is considered the Indies or West Indies? Pay attention to where the information comes from. You are and have been in your own ancestral homeland. Do not be fooled. I will then follow up with a map by Sebastian Munster from 1558, where this land was known as Indian or India Superior through the cartography of that time. They hatched a plot and had taken crafty counsel against thy people to write our ancestors out of history through racist ideology, lies, and bad science, which is scripted to take you off of your land. And he's right. Research it for yourself. You can find that. Okay, it says in the Google search, and he's got the Google search right here. The West Indies, including part of Virginia, North Carolina, East Florida, South Carolina, West Florida, Georgia, Louisiana, and the Honduras, to the mouth of the river Orinoco, from the latest and best authorities and actual observations. Sebastian Munster, Basel, 1558. Written on the map, Tanola del Efol Nui Lacuf Fon Namanit Occidentale and Andia di Ferite Repiti. Translated from the map to English, Tonolo of the New Islands, which are called Western and Indian in different respects. What does the red arrow point to in the 1558 Indian Superior? You are descendants of the Indian of the continent of the India as outlined in 1558 on the cartographer's map. History has been erased to give the lighter-skinned people who have no tie to our land dominion over you, giving you the classifications of Negro, colored, Black, and now African American. For them to steal the titles of Indian and American, Fortunately, there is enough information in the books and periodicals and journals from that period to unravel the lies told to us in American history. So everything that we've been taught, we've been scripted and grafted in. We've been nurtured into a lie. And I mean, I knew this before I even came across this information, right? I'm letting you guys know on camera for whoever watches this video. See, I'm a knock-knock. And I say knock-knock, I'm stubborn, I'm hard-headed, I'm a slaughter. Okay, I'm the baby of the slaughters. I'm baby girl. And I have always been the one that just bumps my head because I dig in. And when I dig in, it's game over. I mean, it's over. Shut it down. Once I make my mind up to do something, like you, it's over. So I've always been the type of person to go against the grain. Challenge shit. You know, when they say, don't put your hand in the fire because it's hot, what do? I turn around and put my hand in the fire because I want to know if it's hot for real. So, you know, for me, it's like I knew this information before it actually came to me in writing and in meeting people because I asked for a thing. I literally got on my hands and my knees and prayed for more knowledge and prayed to become more knowledgeable. I'm not even going to say smarter or intelligent. I asked for wisdom is what I asked for. I asked for wisdom and I asked for knowledge. Now, with the knowledge comes the application thereof, right? And through your experiences, you gain wisdom. So, you know, it's twofold. So it's synchronicity to me that I've found people online because not very many people, the average person is hard for me to have a conversation with, right? It's a superficial thing. Oh, how's the weather? How are you doing? How's your family? You know, games coming on. What are you watching on TV? What movies have you saw? You know, what coffees do you drink? What teas do you like? Superficial conversation. When it gets down to the real root of conversation, majority of people won't even be able to handle what comes out of my mouth and what speaks out of my mouth. So I have to limit and I have to dial back being who I really am. When I first meet people, I'm just smiley, happy, bubbly. But deep inside, I have a lot of shit going on in my head, as do everyone. And I'm nobody special, right? I think we're all unique, but no one is special because we're all interconnected consciously, right? So for me, it's hard for me to dial back. And I have to listen to one of my family members. They go, hey, Niecy, Carolyn, dial back the crazy a little bit and just be normal. I'm like, yeah, right. I am normal. This is who I am, right? So for me to dial it back, it's me just literally being quiet and sitting silent and watching people in the room. That's it. It's hard for me to have an intelligent conversation with people with substance because the average person really is self-absorbed into their own life and they're absorbed in watching The Bachelorette or Dancing with the Stars, if that even still comes on. Following the Trump adventures and, Zelensky and Ukraine and the Russian war and just, the atrocities that are going on in Palestine, right? You see these things and it's just like people are listening to what's on the news and they don't think for themselves at all. They go by what is being reported. And I cannot stand to be around people who, for a lack of a better word, are liberals. Because I think I think they're not being smart. They're not researching what's really going on. And for me, that's superficial. And I can't involve myself with that mindset. They believe what they've been taught in school. They went to these educational indoctrination camps they call universities, which basically were older remnants of Tartaria. The buildings were, these buildings were built hundreds, if not thousands of years ago, right? And they go into these indoctrination centers. And basically, like he said in this book, they test out of this material. So they're conditioned and they're programmed in their thinking. And it's hard for me to deal with people like that. You know what I'm saying? So my point is, to come full circle is that when you ask for a thing, all I'm going to say is be ready for what you get. Be careful what you ask for because you just might get it. And with the knowledge comes great responsibility, and it's a weight on your shoulders. The more you learn, the more you grieve. Okay? And I'm not saying it in a negative way. I'm simply saying that everything that's been put in record on books, he's right. And I will even go back to say even before the 1800s, right? Oral traditions, maybe not so much, but there's always room for interpretation and error no matter what, because we are men, right? We are gods incarnate in the flesh. So there's always room or error for interpretation. There are other things that walk on this dome, inside this dome, earth dome with us, right? So my point is those things have this perception or thought of them being over us and being better than us. And they are a destructive race of beings. There are multiple beings that live on this planet, this earth dome with us, okay? This planetary dome with us. We're not the only beings. They walk around and they look like us and they talk like us, but they're not of us, right? So, they have scripted a whole system along with their human lackeys. And so these same group of individuals that came over here hundreds of years ago and touched down on our soil here are those beings and those people that work for those beings. And when you do your research, you'll figure that out, right? I'm just giving a little tea, and let me have a little sip. Yes, I'm drinking my Stella Artois tonight. Back to this part. And it says, you and your descendants can finally stand again in ranks with human family, but only if you choose to stand for your heritage. Indian, noun, a general name of any natives of the Indies. As an East Indian or a West Indian, it is particularly applied to any native of the American continent. This system allowed the globe-starving masses, starting in the mid-1800s, of which most were lightly melanated, to come to our shores in pursuit of their dreams, all while systematically disenfranchising the original inhabitant of the same opportunity. Gotta have a drink on that one. This isn't about color. It is about the blood that runs through our veins. He's got a graph here. It says number of immigrants as a percentage of the U.S. population from 1850 to 2017. And he's got it listed here. And he's also got the map of the West Indies and the East Indies. It's how a sick belief system that has been created and has been overshadowed by the American experiment that separates people by class and station to hide the original beings in plain sight, that has ruled globally through misclassification, misnomers by these pale supremacists. I'm going to interject. I don't feel that all light skin, because I don't say white anymore, you're either dark skin or light skin, okay? And I'm not just talking about someone in the melanated race, okay? I'm removing that vocabulary. The black and white, it's not even in my vernacular anymore. I don't. The only reason why I'm saying it now on camera is for you to understand that. I don't say black, I don't say white. It's a caste system. You either light skin or you dark skin, okay? So there are supremacists in the light skin community. We know that. I don't feel that all of them are like that. Never have I ever. I will tell you this one story and then I'm going to get back to this. My grandfather's brother, great man. He would come over on Sundays after worship when I was living with Aunt Queen in Kentucky, in Louisville. He would come over and she would cook and she would give him a plate. My Aunt Queen, that's how she showed her love. She was like the big mama, right? She couldn't have kids, but she had siblings who had kids. And she was one of 4 sets of twins. She was one of the twins. She would cook, and that woman could, let me tell you, that woman could cook. I think that's why I have this gene in me where I'm chunky or thick, because I have a recipe for some sweet rolls, y'all. If I sold them rolls, I'd probably be, rich with the fiat currency right now. I mean, a lot richer than what I am. Let me put it that way, because I ain't rich. I work for everything I got. My point is, I have a family recipe that I really need to start making it again for my loved ones and my friends, right? So he would come over, he'd get him a plate and get him some sweet rolls. Y'all know about them rolls, them yeast rolls that would take 2 days to rise, with the butter, the homemade butter that she made, the churn, and I had to go out there and help her. Oh my God. So one Sunday I came outside and I had been crying, and he set me down and he put me on his lap. And this was a big old burly white guy, right? Probably like, I don't know, maybe 6 foot. I'm a little kid, so I know he was tall and kind of built big, had a little gut, but not very big. He was muscular. He set me down on his knee, and, I hugged him, and he gave me some change and said that he would take me to get some ice cream and stuff like that. And, he said something to me. He grabbed me by my arms and he said, listen, Carolyn, I want you to know something. And I'm like, okay. He said, I love you. You're my blood. And I said, I love you too. And I said, I love you too, Unc. And he said, I want you to always remember something I'm going to tell you. One day I'm not going to be here anymore. And he looked at me in my face. It was like, I'm looking at you on camera. He said, people who look like me, not all people who look like me are good people. You remember that. And I was like, when I get big and I grow up, I want to be with someone like you. I want to be with someone like you, is what I told him. He said, I understand what you're saying, because I do come by and I see you all the time. He says, I understand what you're saying, but you have to remember what I'm telling you now. As you get older, you will understand. People who look like me are not going to treat you the same. And they're just not. They're not going to think the way I think. And they're not going to treat you the way I treat you. And that has stuck to me in my mind. And this was my uncle, my grandfather's brother, who said that to me, right? He said that to me. And as I got older, I understood what he meant. No, Mimi, you cannot get on camera. My chihuahua. He was light-skinned. I don't want to say pale. I don't want to say white. He was a light-skinned. He was melanin. Everybody's got melanin in their skin. But he was light-skinned. He was a white man. And he told me that as a child. He set me down and he told me that. So do I believe all pale-skinned people or white people like that? No, not for a minute. I know there are bad apples in every race, right? But I truly believe, and I ain't even going to say extraterrestrials. I'm going to even go there too. Because I don't think all the reptilians are bad. Something in me just tells me they're not. They're dutiful and they're doing what they think that is right in their community's eyes. But I believe some of them just don't want to do that. They just want to be left alone and they just want to live their lives, right? I don't believe that every single being that's ever been created, all of them are evil. Now, unless I've just run across some definitely bad ones, I have not. But my interpretation of that moment in time has always stuck in the back of my mind. So I do not feel that all pale skin or, for this video, white people are bad. That's not my impression at all. There's a few bad apples in every race. And but the ones that are the ruling class are the bad actors. And they have done this against us, our people, as a great disservice. The melanated people, because we're all carbon-based life forms here in the Earth Dome. But the melanated people, we have to step up and come together and understand that we're sentient beings, as all the other beings on this planet. We were, and there's been proof that we were created first. of this template in this Earth Dome, in this great experiment. And I know how that's going to rub some people the wrong way. I had somebody message me in one of my group posts, and she was saying, "Oh my God, don't tell me that you are a person who thinks that you're Hebrew and you're one of the Israelites." And I'm like, and I had to check her and let her know in a respectful way. Hebrew is a language. It's not a people. It's a language. And we are the true Judeans. Okay? So you have to do your research. She was ignorant to the fact. And was she a light-skinned person? Yes. So I had to check her ass. Respectfully. It says, my statement above goes out to everyone. This is not about assortment of truth. That is about universal truth. Have you ever wondered why our people's identities have been misclassified and reclassified by the U.S. Census in America numerous times? We are the only people to have their identities misclassified and reclassified over and over and over within America using the U.S. Census. If our ancestors were truly an enslaved people from Africa, then why has not the U.S. Census ever classified our people as Africans to begin with? My claims in this book and assertions would be over. Not one time in the history of the census has the census ever classified our ancestors as African, which means that not one time did the government consider them as African. Let that sink in. Hold, please. He's right. He's right. The danger is real. This tactic can potentially pit the youth against the elders. What I am seeing today is that it is going to be the youth against the elders because they have been programmed to not critically think. And that's true. You know, we got a lot of youth out there still worried about what Sexy Red and P. Diddy and, you know, the butt bumpers are doing. You know, I love all people. I love all races. But our race in particular, the melanated race, the dark-skinned people, we have issues. This great experiment has been so successful. It has been so successful that critical thinking is out the door. I've had people younger people reach out to me and say, well, why are you talking about this? The history is so long ago. It's not going to make a difference, you know. Got a lot of guys out there who are, I'm not going to say women haters. I'm going to say disgruntled or not happy with the woman of color. Okay. The ergo black woman, black girl magic, hot girl summer. You know, those women, right? Women that look like me, right? I can tell you that our race is misguided and they're believing in the illusion of the five senses. That's all I'm going to say on that one. It is not going to be a race war because society cannot manifest that situation, albeit they have been trying for years. This evil wants everybody to be in the same bucket together and hating and being angry and upset with one another. Remember, lies create violence, truth creates peace and prosperity. I watched a video on TikTok. Two, I guess, I don't want to say Mexican, Latin, Honduran women that would speak Spanish. They filmed these four guys that jumped out and slow motioned them on camera. Dude got out of the car and busted her windshield. And she was like, I didn't do anything. I was following them at the light and they got out the car, pulled up beside us. We pulled up at the light and they got out, jumped out, ran around, started shouting stuff and hit the car. And I'm like, those are the infiltrators that are here. So we're going to be seeing a lot more of that stuff. And I don't want to give it energy, but I'm just going to say this. We are going to be destroyed from within because of what's been put out there in the ether on TV and programming and music, okay, and social media. And now you've got these infiltrators from other countries that are here examining and living among us, working among us, listening to us, watching us. Those are the ones that we're going to have to put down. And when I say put down, I mean, we got to put their ass in place. We have to check that box real quick, right? Don't advocate violence. I do not. But there's going to come a time where we're going to have to stand or shut the fuck up and go over there and sit in the corner and suck your thumb. I ain't the one. I'm a slaughter. I'm not the one. That's all I'm going to say to that. This evil wants everybody to be in the same bucket together, hating and being angry and upset with one another. Remember, lies create violence. Truth creates peace and prosperity. All truth lives within your genetics, meaning all truth lives within our DNA. And it's true. We have epigenetic memories. And I will say, because I'm speaking from my own experience, Black women have a lot of damage, and baggage that we as a race of women need to work through together in love. And instead of having that crab in the barrel mentality and going after each other and cutthroat and tearing each other down, we need to be the ones building each other up. Period. Point blank simple. And it's women my age, because I'll be 55 in a couple of days. Yeah, 55. Damn near 60. 55 years old need to check these young ones. And it's the truth. Because if they've never been loved and guided by an elderly one who is not in the head, not effed up in the head, our race would be so much better off. Truly. Kevin Samuels, many hated him, but I had to respect the brother because he started off talking about men of color. And then he went to the women, and all the Black women, and I'm going to say this on this video, had a problem with his ass. But I had a problem with him because he was right. I supported the brother. I was probably very few, like 1%, but I supported what he had to say because he was right. He was on point. I said what I said. I stand 10 toes on that. All truth lives within your genetics, meaning all truth lives within your DNA. And everything outside of you is, in theory, a fabricated lie to hide who you are. Applying critical thinking to the whole truth allows us not to ignore the fact that our genetics play not just 80%, but 100% of everything that is going on this planet. More importantly, became evident within the last few years by what we've been subject to with the introduction of gene therapy, which has been found to alter your DNA. What I believe is that the so-called rulers have decided to depopulate the whole of society because they feel they are above us all. And because they can do it. And because they're working with non-human entities that were here before we were introduced into this environment. That's a fact. Remember, gene therapy was implanted in the deadly experiment injections, the Tuskegee 2.0. This vaccine was administered to mice and monkeys with 100% fatality rate. Next part. Survival is the only choice when the blood cries out. Being born in the 60s, I can speak to of how life was for me and what I saw and knew. How living in a period where colorism was rampant even in the BIPOC communities. Black, Indian, what was it? I forget what BIPOC stands for. Hold on. Hold, please. Hold, please. Hold, please. This is an acronym that we got to get this down, okay? BIPOC. BIPOC. I have it highlighted in here. I highlighted Rosewood. Incidentally, on my last video on Facebook, I read this part. The Rosewood massacres of 1923 in Florida. Rosewood was a horrifying incident of the racial violence that turned everything upside down when the white mob circled all the towns, burning it to the ground and leaving a sear that would last for leaving a scar that would last for decades. The true death toll was hidden for years, for historians largely ignoring the tragedy. So we got the Red Summer, Tulsa, and we know about the Tulsa incident, and Rosewood. So you guys need to research that. I did not know about the Red Summer. or Rosewood. I knew about Tulsa. That I did know. I was looking for what the acronym was BPOC for. Not getting off task. I just want to... Where did he put it at? Jameel, I know you're watching this. I know you put it in the book. Ah, here it is. Black, Indigenous People of Color. BPOC. Black, Indigenous People of Color. Let me highlight that. I'm that person that highlights stuff and puts markers all in pages and writes in them and flags them. Black, Indigenous Peoples of Color. People of color communities. I remember my Nana saying to me before I went out to play, do not go out there and get black in the sun. As a man who has lived over 6 decades, those words have lived with me my entire life. I love being out in the sun and will spend hours enjoying it, working or relaxing. And they always want to tell you to slither on some sunscreen and do this and do that. My thing is use coconut oil. I don't put all that sunscreen and stuff in there because it has chemicals. And to me, it's like, why are you telling us to do that? Because hundreds of years ago, our ancestors didn't put that shit on their skin. Did they have cancer like they do now? No. My point is, it's all by design. So he's right. However, I have kept most of my body covered so that only my face and hands show the effects of the sun. Always remembering Nana's words. We are energy beings. We have to be charged in sunlight. We have to go outside and we have to ground. We have to get vitamin D, which comes from the sun. Other unfortunate events of time were the brown paper bag. I remember that. Tested my skin with the brown paper bag. I used to do it all the time when I was a kid. And pencil test was real also. Most of the women of color, no matter what their hue, preferred lighter skin over darker hued men when I was growing up in my formative years. I refused to let those clowns steal my living experiences and allow them to rewrite history to make people believe there was this utopian occurrence. Supposedly everything was hunky-dory when in fact it was mean and turbulent period full of racist overtones that even existed in our community, and it's true. It was not until around the success of the Wesley Snipes in the mid-'80s that darker hue males had a resurgence on the American stage. He's right about that. So right. I think Jameel's a few years older than me. So here is the rub. By the time he came on the scene, our communities had suffered from the drug and the COINTELPRO tactics of the 60s and 70s imposed by the state and federal governments in urban communities. In other words, we had armed men were going over to Vietnam and fighting in wars. And then you had other men that stayed, or they had children. Children came up and they got addicted to drugs. So when our brothers came back, our men came back, the communities were infested with drugs and alcohol. And then coming back to U.S. soil, look how they were treated. Look how they were treated. Most of the people you see out there on the streets and homeless are veterans that have mental disorders, that need help, that need medication. But what do we do with them? We discard them like trash. And we take in people from other countries and put them up and put them over our veterans who fought for the illusion, died and bled for this grand experiment. And look how we treat them. The crime bills that affected urban communities more than other people in the U.S., whether you remember it or not, it fucking happened. And it's the truth. During this period, the movie industry tried solidified this behavior on credulous people that were just trying to survive the madness that surrounded them. Also, by this time, most of our urban communities lost their true history through loss, the elders, and the forgotten by offspring because of the constant war, i.e. policing on the urban communities. People were just trying to survive. It only takes one generation to replace all of this. One generation to erase the truth and to start a new narrative. Many of those who were trying to bring knowledge to the communities and were trying to fight back against what had been placed on top of our heads were destroyed. A notable example of this is the MOVE incident that happened in Philadelphia in the 80s. The historical narrative of the United States has been shaped by those who hold power. They influence the emphasis placed only on certain aspect of history that has been benefited whites and worked against so many black people. I'm going to say Indian. The people who profited and upheld the institution of slavery, which is a global occurrence, have done so through military, manpower, economic, and political power historically. Historians and scholars have traditionally focused more on so-called African slavery because it is a contrived story told as the American history narrative. And he's right. I remember, we came over on slave ships. There were so many people that came over, and then that movie Roots came out, which was a freaking lie, and he got sued for that shit. Historians and scholars have traditionally focused more on the so-called African slavery because it is a contrived story told as the American history narrative. No one can produce the supported information through credible documentation to validate the multitude of the said story. It is important to recognize that by leaving out the history of white slavery or the indentured servitude, which is legitimate here in America, this has a significant aspect of true American history. Hold, please. I brought these out in my other video, but I'm going to show you right here on camera. Birth of a White Nation. White Cargo. The Forgotten History of the Britain's White Slaves in America. By Don Jordan and Michael Walsh. This one, New York Times bestseller. White Trash, the 400-year untold history of class in America. Nancy Eisenberg. Does that not sound like it's, yeah. German or possibly even a hint of, Jewish. Co-author of The Problem of Democracy. Just sharing those with you people. Sharing these books with you. See, they didn't teach us that in school. And damn sure didn't teach that in college. Not in the college I went to. Wasn't on the curriculum. It wasn't. Not in American history and government. It was not on the curriculum. This has a significant aspect of true American history. Yes, it does. The most still shy away from a true dialogue about the slavery discussions. Indentured servants who were often European and lightly melanated played a role in the early colonial economy and settlement. Their experiences and contributions are unspoken part of the broader narrative of American history. Although it has been studied and discussed by historians and scholars, this story does not receive the same attention as the so-called African story, which is bullshit. Important to note that racism and racial prejudice has been deeply ingrained in American history and the society overall since the beginning of the 1900s. This has led to systematic racism and discrimination against the so-called black individuals and communities. It became a commonplace after the end of the Civil War with the creation of the KKK. The two platforms, the Republican Party and the Democratic platform or party. Look at these pictures. Look at them closely. The melanated individual was a part of the Republican Party, not the Democratic Party, people. This goes back to the Republic of Tartary, which they have completely scripted out of history. They don't even talk about it. It's not in our books. The Republicans were melanated people. They were melanated people. And they were part of the larger one world, one system of Tartary. It existed. It was real. Just as Atlantis and Lemuria existed. The Klan is a paramilitary force that served the interests of the Democratic Party and all those who desired restoration of the idea of, air quotes, white supremacy. Its purposes were political in the broadest sense, which sought to affect power relations, both public and private, throughout Southern society. It aimed to reverse changes that swept over the South during Reconstruction. And Chief Red Wolf, has been reading Behold a Pale Horse and Exposing the Expositions by Howdy Mikowski, as well as Facts Are Facts, Arthur Kessler's 13 Tribes. He's been reading these things. All that ties in. It all ties in together. And I would highly suggest you guys to pick up those books and read them for yourself. Don't take my word for it, and please do your research. What I'm speaking here is truth, whether you like it or not, whether you agree with it or not. It says, its purposes were political in the broadest sense, which sought to affect power between both public and private throughout Southern society. It aimed to reverse changes that swept over the South during Reconstruction, to destroy the Republican Party's infrastructure, to undermine the Reconstruction. They attempted to establish control of the black labor force and created racial subordination to every aspect of life to end. They worked to restrict the education, economic advancement, voting rights, and the right to keep and bear arms of people of color. Let me tell you something. Chief even said it. We've always had weapons. We've always had guns. People of color have always had guns. We've always carried munitions. We've always done that. The Klan soon spread into nearly every state, launching a reign of terror against Republican leaders, both black and white. I'm going to say light skin and dark skin. Okay. It is documented that they killed and wounded over 200 black Republicans by hunting and chasing them down. Although this systematic racism is entrenched and not taught throughout the educational system. Now, why is that not taught? Why can't little Timmy and little Johnny see those people hanging from trees with penises in their mouth? It's real. Oh, wait, would that be under the guise of that's child abuse, unconstitutional, unfit for a child to see? But my aunts and my grandmother's sisters, they were children when they saw their friends hanging from a tree. Men hanging from a tree with their feet cut off, hands cut off, penis cut off. They saw it as kids. So little Johnny and little Timmy can't see that nowadays because what? You have some kind of privilege? Those people over in Palestine and those people in Ukraine, suffering is going on worldwide, people. We are living a cozy little life here in this little bubble in the United States. All that's coming to an end. And I'm not trying to speak that into existence, but I know it's coming. And for those who are here that are on our ancestral soil, your things are not going to end the way you think they're going to end for you. They're not. You've been promised some things and you've been shown some things, but believe me, they're not going to carry that shit out. You are expendable just like every other person on the soil. The truth is not being told. It's been covered up. And it says, although the systematic racism is entrenched and not taught throughout the education system, it has contributed to unequal access to opportunities, resources, and justice, as well as negative stereotypes and biases. It's consistent in many segments that persist in many segments of the population and have increased with the influx of immigrants being taught bad information through their naturalization process. I'm going to repeat that. It's immigrants being taught bad information through their naturalization process. Not talking about the 2 million to 5.5 million indigenous American people, Indians, black people, melanated people, dark-skinned people that were enslaved. A study by Linford D. Fisher, Associate Professor of History at Brown University. And a key point to remember that there were 4 million slaves for the final numbers of slaves after the so-called end of the Civil War was being freed. The enslavement of American Indians was common during European colonization of North America. American Indians were enslaved through various means, including being captured in warfare, prisoners of war, forced into labor, and the slave trade. Indigenous peoples from different tribes were affected in most cases along the eastern seaboard. American Indian slaves were sent to other parts of the world, including the Caribbean. This truth is undisputed. While the invaders were clearing out our lands, they sent millions of American Indians to the West Indies. Ask the question of yourself, where are all the Native Americans in the West Indies? Where are they? Come on, please tell me, where is this group of people who look like people today, calling themselves accepted by this government as Native Americans in the islands? If millions were sent to Jamaica, Cuba, Dominican Republic, the Antilles, and the whole of the West Indies, where are they? Remember, they sent more Indians over there to the West Indies than they brought African people here to the Americas. And that's the truth. I even did the research on that. The data from Dr. Fisher is a crucial factor that cannot be overlooked as we begin to review the riot and massacre information that will follow. If one takes a common sense look at the riot and massacre information, hopefully, like me, you'll find that there is no way that the people who suffered during the creation of the U.S. corporation could be no one other than the original people of the land labeled Indian, Negro, colored, black, and now African American. I question why there would be so many riots and massacres waged against these people if these people were not the original people that own the land and the resources. I'm going to stop it right there. We had a good point. He hit the nail on the head. I can't even top that one. I ain't got nothing else to say on that. He's right. He's right. He is so right. He is 100%. If one takes a common sense look at the riot and massacre information, hopefully like me, you'll find that there is no way that the people who suffered during the creation of the U.S. corporation could be no other than the original people of the land labeled Indian, Negro, colored, black, and now African American. I question why there have been so many riots and massacres waged against these people if these people are not the original people that will own land and resources. And no, they did not bring all of us here from freaking Africa. That's a damn lie. I know what my ancestors told me before they laid down and died, before we buried them. I know what my auntie and them told me. And it's no confusion. And no, we not from the damn Congo. Somebody in my family spit in a damn tube and sit that shit off. And they believe in that shit. And, you know, one of my nieces said, well, maybe they didn't know what they were talking about. Oh, no. Oh, no. My Aunt Stella, my Aunt Quinella, no, baby. Those were the type of women you did not want to go toe-to-toe with. They were truth tellers. Whether you wanted to hear the shit or not, they were going to tell you the truth. And you better be ready for it. And if you're not, oh well, sorry about your feelings, boo-boo. As they say on that show, boo-boo kitty. The joke is on us. The jig is up. They've been going on this masquerade way too long. And we got too many people still got their head in the game talking about they from, you know, the Moors and, you know, they out of Africa. We got kinfolk that look like us. What did they say? All skin folk are not our kinfolk. And that's the truth. And that is the absolute truth. We got people in our community holding on to these lies. Boule type individuals who've been paid and grafted in and nurtured in and who are perpetuating the crap like Dr. Umar, whatever his name is. And there's others out there. There's others out there who talk a good game and who have been grafted and groomed by government officials, taken under their wing, put in these CIA special programs, MK Ultra, one of them, and who are now mainstream and on TV and got their own shows and podcasts and running around jet setting and look at me, look at my life, look how much money I got, look what I'm doing, the power of manifestation. Yeah, you had a little bit more than the power of manifestation to help you. I'm just saying, your ass was grafted in and you just don't want to fess up. But it'll all come out because what is in the darkness will come to light. It always does. So this is a good read, people. Thank you for hanging in here with me. I did a little bit of my commentary. I'm sorry about that. I am passionate about this information because it needs to get out there. So please share this